Today we're going to be making an entirely vegan Yule log cake or Bûche De Noël cake. It is a completely vegan chocolate sponge swirled in a chocolate hazelnut buttercream and all topped with a chocolate ganache. It is so much fun to make, and let's get started. So to a bowl you're going to add in the flour along with the cacao powder and the baking powder. You'll give it a good whisk and then you'll set it aside so that we can make our wet ingredients. Now this next step is actually very similar to making a regular chocolate sponge cake. We're going to be using aquafaba instead of egg whites, and we're going to add in a little bit of the coconut sugar and basically whip it until it is nice and stiff, foamy paste. So almost to this consistency. We're going to whip it a little bit more, and then we're going to add in the remaining ingredients. So if you're using a hand mixer like I am, it should take about 5 to 7 minutes, but if you're using a stand mixer, it'll take a little bit quicker. You'll add in the applesauce, which represents the egg yolks in the sponge cake, along with the remaining coconut sugar and the dairy-free yogurt, and then we'll just completely mix everything together until it's nice and consistent. And then we're going to add in our dry ingredients, so just dump that right in, and then you're just going to gently fold the mixture, being careful not to overmix the sponge cake batter, and you're basically just mixing until there are no more dry streaks. Once you reach this consistency, we're going to pour our batter onto a prepared baking sheet. So I'm going to be using a medium baking sheet, and I recommend that the baking sheet has walls on it so that the batter doesn't drip anywhere, but just make sure that you have a piece of parchment paper on there because that's going to be so easy to remove the sponge cake so that we can roll it. But basically just spread the batter until it reaches the edges of the pan, and we're going to bake this only for about 10 minutes. It might vary a little bit depending on your oven, so look for between 10 to 12 minutes at 350, and you want to make sure that the cake is completely set and that the toothpick comes out clean. Though I will say it won't rise much because this is, it's a very thin batter right now. But once the cake is baked, we're going to sprinkle a little bit of cacao powder onto a clean kitchen towel, and then we're going to carefully transfer the sponge cake onto the kitchen towel so that it can completely cool in a rolled shape. So rolling it like this while it's still warm is going to actually help the cake to maintain and roll back into that rolled shape, so that we basically make sort of like a Swiss roll cake for this Yule log cake. And this also helps to ensure that the cake doesn't break once we re-roll it. So we're rolling the kitchen towel into the cake as well, and then we're just going to plop it into the fridge to chill for about 2 hours. And during this time we can actually make our vegan meringue mushrooms. Now I did have a whole video sequence to show you guys how to do this. Unfortunately the SD card got damaged, so I wasn't able to show you that, but I have the whole written directions in the recipe card, so be sure to go check that out. But once your cake is completely cool, we'll make the vegan buttercream, which we're doing right here. We're just going to cream together the vegan butter along with the cacao powder, and then I'm using powdered coconut sugar, which acts just like powdered sugar. You can use powdered sugar if you'd like, if you don't mind it being, if you don't mind the cake having refined sugar in it. And then we're going to add in a few spoonfuls of the chocolate hazelnut spread. You can omit this if you are nut free, but I liked the whole idea of having a chocolate hazelnut buttercream filling in this vegan Yule log cake. And then we're going to carefully unroll our chocolate sponge cake that has been chilling in the fridge. So now it should be nice and cool. There should be no warmth to the cake whatsoever, or else the chocolate buttercream is going to melt. And then we're going to carefully spread the chocolate hazelnut buttercream, this is vegan, it is dairy free, onto the sponge cake here. And we're just going to make sure that the frosting reaches the edges. And then we're going to carefully re-roll this cake. So you can use the assistance of the kitchen towel as well, but basically you want to make sure that the kitchen towel doesn't go into the cake. So we're not rolling it like we did before. We're basically kind of rolling it like cinnamon rolls, like just helping you adjust the cake right there. And if it breaks a little bit, don't worry, it's going to still turn out perfectly. So just keep rolling, and then we are going to actually put this Swiss roll, it's basically like a Swiss roll cake at this point, back into the fridge to chill for a little bit while we make our ganache. Before we make our ganache, I'm going to quickly show you how to assemble these vegan meringue mushrooms. Now I did get to salvage a little bit of this. This was on another SD card, so I was very grateful for that. But basically you're just going to put a little dot of chocolate right on the bottom of the cap and then press the mushroom into it. And then we're going to set those aside to set, and we're going to make our ganache. So right here we just have super hot melted vegan butter. I'm using Miyoko's vegan butter. And then you add in about a cup of chocolate chips, and you're just going to stir it until the chocolate chips completely melt into the vegan butter. So it should be completely smooth like this, and then we're going to put it back into the fridge to chill for about 10 minutes so that it's not super runny when we dress our cake right here. So once that is all set, we are going to take our Swiss roll and we're going to put it onto our serving platter or dish. And then we're going to slice it in half, but kind of a little awkward, not completely in half, a little bit like you're slicing 1/3 of the cake and then 2/3 of the cake is going to be basically the base. And you're going to slice it on a diagonal like this. Basically what I did here is then I'm going to put the sliced diagonal part onto the side of the main cake right here so that it lines up and it kind of looks like a log. And then what I like to do is I also like to trim the other 2 edges so that they look clean, like that little roll right there. So I'm going to trim those edges there. And then we are going to spread our vegan ganache onto the chocolate cake. It is okay if it's a little bit runny. It's going to set pretty fast because the sponge cake should be chilled. And you just want to make sure that the ganache covers the entire cake. So use your spoon to spread it around. And then we're actually going to take a fork and we're going to create the bark by just running kind of wiggly lines over the top and sides of the cake. And you want it to be kind of organic looking. So don't go for like super straight lines because we wouldn't find that in nature, right? And now we'll finish decorating our vegan Yule log cake by placing the vegan meringue mushroom caps all over the cake, and you can just kind of go wherever you think looks best on your cake. And then we'll top with a few sugared cranberries, which I made on the side, and then a few sprigs of rosemary as well. You can use fresh rosemary. You can also use holly leaves if you'd like, if you have those, and then give it a little dusting of cacao powder to give it more of that earthy mushroom look, and a little bit of powdered sugar, and you have a completely vegan Yule log cake. So I hope that you love this recipe. The full recipe is found down below in the description box, so go check out that link. Be sure to let me know how this recipe went for you in the comments section and in the recipe card as well. And I hope that you love it. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one.